Hey guys, so another windy day, but obviously a lot cloudier than it was yesterday. I think by tonight it's supposed to be getting some rain. I'm kind of almost thinking about maybe cutting my grass again, but it doesn't seem tall enough for me to actually cut it, so I'm not going to worry about it. Alright, so today I'm going to do a video on how to clean one of these little carburetors. So I'm going to use my Echo HC150 for an example on doing this. They're really not that hard to actually clean, even though it does require having to take a lot of stuff apart. That's probably what makes it a little bit hard. But first things first, what I usually like to do, like if I would ever want to do carburetor work on these, I always like to dump the gas out of the equipment. That's what I just did, just dumped it in this container right here. And then let's take our air cleaner off. And then we'll have to take these two Phillips screws off just to get the carburetor off. And so without further ado, we'll get started. Alrighty, so we'll just loosen up these two Phillips screws. You can use either a Phillips screwdriver or a flathead if you want. So got that one, we'll loosen this bottom one. See if we got them loosened enough. Yep, they're loose enough. Yep, where we got the carburetor apart. Let me see if I can just try to get the air cleaner cover. Get that off. And then try to remove the throttle cable on this if we can. I don't know if I can try to. That one's like literally in there real good. Might have to actually take this little piece off, and it's held on by 3 little Phillips screws. So let me get a smaller Phillips head. So there's one screw right here. Second one right here. We'll kind of move the throttle here a little bit. Oh, that screw got stuck on my little head because it's magnetic. Alright. That one's probably not loose enough. I got another screw that's stuck on my screwdriver. Alright, I think this should all just come right off. I don't know if I can get it to come off. Well, I'll try and get it off camera. So I figured let's pull these fuel lines off just by pulling on them. Yeah, it's kind of hard to do this and have the camera in front of me, so hang on a second. Alright guys, so now we have our carburetor off. So I was managed to get the throttle cable off, so I just put these 3 screws right back in. And so this is a Zama carburetor. You can see it's an RB series, so this one here is a model K75. Oh, here's my little gasket here. I better have that near the machine so I won't lose it. Alright. So let's we'll go ahead and take off these 2 Phillips screws right here. Alright, so these screws are off. Should just be able to try to get this cover off. Okay. So this right here is what's called a metering diaphragm. And you always want to make sure that it's all nice and soft, which this one apparently is still good, still nice and soft. You want to make sure these things are not hard and wrinkled, though. There's just a very little bit of wrinklage, but it's actually not too bad, so it's still good. And I think my gasket is actually stuck on it, but that's alright. So this is what the inside of one of these carburetors look like. There's just like a little lever right here, and then right over here is where your needle is. So now let's take this side off with taking these 4 Phillips screws off. If I can get them off. Let me try a flathead screw, because I don't want to ruin these screws. There we go. These screws felt a little bit tight. Well, I'll just try to loosen, use the flathead. Then I'll just get them off with the Phillips. Oops. Okay, there's one screw. Try to get this a little closer to the camera so you can see it a little bit better, because I do got the camera in macro. I'll just try to get these on the bottom. Alright, so this plate will just come right off, along with the primer bulb. It's also a good idea to check the condition of your primer bulb. Just make sure that there are no cracks or anything, which in this case this one is still good. Now we got to take this piece off. It's only held on just by this little Phillips screw right here. And this screw's kind of long. Oh, there we go. And this piece here should just come right off. And it is. This is like the pump side of the carburetor. And then you see right here we got another diaphragm. This is what's called the pump diaphragm. Just take it off. And this diaphragm is actually still good too. Just how I know that is because of these two flaps here on both sides. They're shut flat like they are. Now if they're not, that means that you would need to replace a diaphragm, which means that your machine will not run right. So in this case, this one is actually okay. I can just try and just separate both of them. Here's the diaphragm, and then there's the gasket. Just set all of those aside, and I'll separate the metering diaphragm to its gasket as well. Just without damaging the diaphragm. Here we go. See, and there's this right here. What you see there is what's called a little filter screen, which in this case actually looks good. This whole carburetor itself is actually clean because this unit's less than 2 years old. Just a little bit of dirt along here. That was probably from the outside of it, but it's not too bad. Looks pretty good. Now to actually just do a really good clean on these carburetors, like if they're real dirty, just take your carburetor cleaner, like with the straw on it, just spray the carb cleaner down onto these little small orifices. Whenever you do this, make sure that you do wear safety glasses, because it can actually could spray right back into your eyes, all in these holes. Also, even spray some from along here on this little filter screen too. Now, sometimes these screens might possibly look clean, but they, even though it'll still be all clogged up with old gas. But sometimes when these carburetors, when they sit for a very long time, sometimes you cannot get them clean. Most likely you would just have to replace your entire carburetor. Now, if you were to do a complete rebuild on your carburetor, mainly you got to take off this little lever, the pin and the needle, which is held on by this little Phillips screw right here. So we'll actually take this off too, if we can. And it's on there real tight. Actually, in this case, I don't think I will. Let's see. Try and get it off just for the sake of the video if I can. No, I'm not going to worry about it. But anyways, like if you take the screw off, it'll just lose. This little lever will come off, and you want to make sure that you don't lose that spring underneath there, and also to make sure that you don't lose that needle as well. So it sort of acts kind of almost like the float. helps allow the amount of gas to get into the carburetor, whereas this side here is kind of like the pump side of the carburetor to help allow the gas to get into the carburetor. So yeah. So no need for me to do any cleaning on this carburetor, because this carburetor is all nice and clean. Just like I said, this machine is just less than a year old. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to actually do barely a little bit of cleaning. I'm just going to actually just blow them with the air compressor, and then we'll get her put back on. Alright, so now it's time to reassemble the carburetor. We'll start by this side because it's obviously the easiest side. So we'll start by putting the metering diaphragm back on. Now, when you do all this, put your gasket on first. Your gasket always goes on first. Now this only goes on one way. It just goes on just like that. Just got to line up those holes. See, just like that. And then now we just grab our diaphragm. Put that all in there like that. Try to line up the holes. Just like that. And just take our cover. Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to do all this with the camera in front of me, so I'll just get all this on and we'll start getting the screws on. Alright, so now one thing I kind of didn't know about, see there's one little thing right here onto this cover, goes into like a hole there, kind of helps hold this thing in. So we got all the holes all lined up, just so I won't do no damage to the diaphragm and the gasket. So we just put these smaller screws just to get them started. Let me get Phillips screw. Try and hold on to this. I'll just start getting the screws in. Now make sure that you do tighten these up evenly. So I just got that side snug, and then now snug this side. That one's snug. Then now I'll just start getting them on there tight. Just tighten one side and then the other, just so that way it goes on evenly, just to prevent any fuel leaks or air leaks. And that's all you need. Alright, so they are both tight. Alright, cool. So this side is all done. Now for this side. Okay. Okay, so I think you put the gasket on this. Okay, so this only goes in just one way, just by following the shape like that. And then your diaphragm. Just like that. I want to make sure they're all lined up. And I think they go on this side, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. Yep, just like that. And then we'll take that one screw, goes right here into the middle. This will help hold all of this in. Just get it on there tight. Do not over tighten these because you can easily strip the threads. But again, they need to be very tight. Alright. So now, let's get our primer bulb back on. You can see there's like one little lip here on this primer bulb. You see it right there. You want to line that up toward this screw. And then we will do that. I know it's kind of hard to do this. Alright. Now we'll get our little plate here. Just goes in just like that. And then put our 4 screws in. And we'll get them all started up. And also tighten these on evenly too. We'll do this one in a crisscross pattern. Alright, so that one there is just snugged. And then this one, and I'll grab my flathead just to make sure they're tight. Yeah, and again, the reason why you want to tighten these evenly is to prevent any fuel leaks or air leaks. Alright, so now we'll get the flathead. Because these screws, you could also use a flathead screwdriver as well. That one's tight. That one's tight too. That one is tight, and then now this last one down here. Alright, so here's our carburetor. Now it's ready to be put back on the unit. Before I do, I'm going to kind of blow the outside of it, kind of clean it all off, and then we'll put her back on the hitch trimmer. Alright, so just to make it easier to get the carburetor back on, I'm going to flip the machine over on its side. Now, if this gasket here happened to have fell off, which in this case this one actually did, make sure that you don't lose it. And make sure that you do line it up. It has kind of like an arrow shape, and I believe it has to be pointed towards the spark plug of the engine. I'm going to kind of wipe some of this off a little bit. Make that look a little bit clean along there. Alright. Find my screws here. Just get all this on. Just move the fuel lines out of the way, and just like I said, we got to make sure that this gasket is all lined up. like it is. And then we'll just tighten up the screws. Alright, so I kind of got them all started in. And also, again, you want to tighten these screws on evenly too. And you want to get them fairly tight too, but don't over tighten them because we are screwing this thing into plastic. But just like I said, they do need to be fairly tight. All right. Huh. Boy, do I feel stupid. The choke lever is pointing in the down position, so it means I put this thing on backwards. So let me turn this cover around. Sorry about that. Alright, that looks so much better now. So now all we need to do is hook up the fuel lines and then the throttle cable. Alright guys, so the throttle's hooked up. So this is probably the hardest step to do, is by putting the throttle cable back on. So you want to make sure it's working like the way it is, like you see right here. That means that it's working correctly. Alright, so now we'll connect the fuel lines. Alright, so get the fuel lines hooked up. Now for the black line, want to hook it to the nipple onto the right side of the carburetor. I'm just going to try and wrap the line around the throttle cable. I know it's kind of hard to try to see the nipples. Yeah, I can't quite see them either. Alright, so we'll just put that line in. Make sure they go all the way in, just like that. And then the primer line, it goes into the nipple on the left side of these. And we'll just put it in too. Make sure it goes all the way in too. Alright, cool. Now, last step is to put the air cleaner on. This filter's getting a little bit dirty, so I probably need to replace it soon. Alright, so she's all back on. So I'll put some gas in it, take it outside, and let's see if it starts. Alright, so she's all fueled up. Let me take this blade cover off. I think the last time I used this thing was probably maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, which is probably the last time it ran. Alright, so let's see if it'll start, since I took the carburetor apart. Let's turn it on. It's on choke. We'll give it some primes. Alright, so it's priming, which means that's actually good. And I'll put the camera on the tripod and we'll see if it starts. Well, that's that. Still runs good. I think it does need a little tune-up though. That's a little bit cold. Oh yeah. So she runs pretty good. So this is my Echo HC150 hedge trimmer. This has a 21.2cc engine. It's got the same engine that's in my SRM 225 trimmer. The only difference is between them, they have different mufflers. I think this muffler doesn't even have no catalytic converter on it than the one on my SRM 225. So this one is a bit louder though. So yeah, that just shows on how to clean one of these little carburetors. They're not really that hard, but just the hard part of them is just got to take a lot of stuff apart. But you just got to remember on how to put them all back together the way they were. So hope y'all enjoyed the video. So thanks for watching.